Is it because of the skin I'm in? I love that intro. Shout out to Brother Mac for putting that together. I love it. But what it is, what it do, and what it was, family. We are back with the MEAC'n Up Hour. And as you see, we got the full panel here, which means we're ready for a great show. So before we get into it and everything, just want to give a couple opening shout outs and pass to a couple of brothers to give some shout outs before we get started and introduce our guests we have uh, for tonight's show. So with that, as always, I think the brothers are live. So shout out to the brothers at Swack and the Fool. The inspiration for this podcast, we want to give them a shout out and show them love and everything they doing over there. But as you know, we had to come and do it for the MEAC and CIAA and put a little bit of that flavor on it. Also, I just want to shout out Virginia Union on a great season. We'll talk about that a little later. But shout out to them on a great season and that playoff berth this year. Didn't go the way they wanted it, but we'll get into that. And also a shout out to the Howard Bison. I didn't believe in them, but hey, it came to fruition. But also to the other MEAC schools, as we gave a shout out to the CIAA finishing up what was a competitive season. Shout out to the MEAC schools. You had three schools right there that had a shot in some way or shape or form at the end of the season, and that's what you want to see in these things where they're competing and it comes down to the final game. So with that, I'm gonna pass it, Brother McKee. You got any shouts?
Man, I got a couple. Real quick though, then I'm gonna throw it back to y'all. Big shout out to we don't cover the swag, but big shout out to my college classmate, former teammate at Winston-Salem State University, Coach Terrence Graves, who is the interim. Oh man, I got my sound up. Who is the interim head coach at Southern University as of the firing of Coach Dooley the other day. So he will be the head coach for Southern University as they take on the Grambling Tigers in the Bayou Classic coming up on Saturday. Big shout out to T. Graves. Hope you guys win and have a great game. That's all mine for the night.
What about you, Mac?
Hey man, just shout out to the listeners.
No doubt.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
free.
Shout out to my wife because today is her birthday. So shout out to the Honorable Judge Michelle Fletcher. I hope I did okay today. And then I think I told y'all, hate that we didn't bring it up last week, but the passing of Spencer Gwynn. Want to give my condolences to his family and everything. Longtime voice of Aggie football, him and Mel Swan. Great memories, great times, great fun just listening to them on the radio station. So my condolences and prayers to his family on their loss, big loss to the MEAC and A&T and the A&T family.
No doubt.
Legend.
Well, with that, as y'all see, we have another entity with us this wonderful evening on the MEAC'n Up Hour. So let me introduce this brother. We kind of met him and were blessed with his presence through Brother McKee, who's built a relationship with this brother. And he is the writer and director. Do we need to add anything else? Producer,
yeah.
everything.
Food man, brought the
Food,
paper,
production assistant.
wake up.
So he is all that in a bag of potato chips of the movie HBSU, which you can find on Amazon Prime still and Tubi.
That's correct.
Anywhere else we can find it?
Google Play.
And Google Play. Watched the movie, enjoyed it thoroughly, and I can't wait to see what else this brother's going to have coming up in the future. But it was a movie that made you think, and it was most fitting for this time, what we call the I guess the prime time wave, with the excitement fell around HBCU and the level of athletes that uh, they've been fighting for, with the with the PWI institutions. But we'll let you get into that. But ladies and gentlemen, it's no other than writer director, just to shorten it, Mr. Eric Deal. Welcome, my brother.
Welcome,
Well,
welcome.
thank you. Thank you. It's a
Well,
pleasure to be here.
Well,
Pleasure
just
to
to
be here.
get into Eric, I just want you to kind of just give an introduction of your background and who you are. Let those that may not know, and just we'll take off from there.
Sure. I'm an Ohio kid. I'm born in Ohio, so football is in my blood. If you didn't play football in the state of Ohio, I don't care whether you were good at it or not, you had to play. You had to play. That's just where we played in the cold. We played with socks on our hand and everything. So definitely a big football guy, Ohio guy. But really, I'm just a very curious person, a person that likes to learn. I'm a creative, somebody who loves creativity. So for me, it is always doing something creative and having a voice and trying to say something. I want to say something, to my people, really a lot, really my people. So for me, it's just I'm a person that just wants to create art and yeah, yeah,
And
really.
and what is your affiliation with the HBCU universe?
That's interesting because I didn't have the affiliation that I wanted to. I actually played football. I actually was recruited by HBCUs. I actually was recruited by a lot of schools. I wouldn't be considered a 5-star. It was a long time ago. I would say I was like a 3-star, but I regretted it. I didn't. I stopped playing football, and I did not go to a HBCU. I went to PWI, and that's something that I always regretted. So that stayed with me. So.
Well, don't say that with so much angst. You're not the only one on here that went to a PWI. We're not gonna say who went to a
But
PWI.
we
We
kids have
just
a football
know
team.
that you ain't the only one that went to a PWI. You're all right. It's okay.
Hey,
I'm not alone.
You're not alone.
but your school had football, didn't you, Eric?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
He
yeah,
can't talk
yeah,
still.
yeah.
He can't. I told him I was gonna come for him. He got to shine on me in production. But anyway,
Our school plays football. They spell it with a U. You don't know nothing about
that's
it.
right.
There you go.
Football. Yeah, yeah. So
I believe you call it soccer.
soccer. So, so let me ask this, because you use an interesting word. You say regret, but I want to ask that in this context and just piggybacking on the movie, and we'll just kind of let you lay out what the movie's about. Don't give too much because we want people to go check it out. But was that somewhat of a struggle that you had when making that decision? You mentioned you were getting recruiting. Was there that weight of, well, these my people, should I? But was it was
Yes, it was that. It was kind of that struggle. It was a long time ago, so it wasn't what you see with these kids today. I mean, it's just huge, but it was that struggle. It was a black college in Ohio, but there was some black colleges further away, and I didn't know if I wanted to go out of state. But yeah, it was definitely that struggle of being in a culture where I thought I would be embraced, because when I did go to the PWI, I just felt alone. It wasn't a lot of black students at the school. It was just wasn't the same, you know. And I did visit a friend one time down at HBCU. When I went, I was like, wow. It just, I was like, man,
Yeah.
I'm missing out.
Yeah.
I'm missing out.
Yeah.
You know, I felt it. Yeah, it stayed with me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, tell us about the movie, what inspired
Yeah.
it,
sure.
where it comes. Then I'll let everybody else jump in. So the floor is yours, my brother.
Yeah, so the film is basically about a 5-star recruit. He has his national letter of intent forged and sent to HBCU. And he basically has 24 hours to figure out who did it and make the biggest decision of his life. So this is a film that the research and what happened in my life brought me to this point. It's like, again, we go back to the creativity stuff. It's like I used to be a barber. So I did that for 7 years. And we had, if you've been in a barber shop, that's all we did was argue about sports. And it was a long time ago. And that argument of whether athletes should get paid came up. And oh my God, the barbershop erupted. And that was my first introduction to that. And what side everybody was saying, well, they get a free education. Why should they get paid? And as the years went on, I started reading. I read an article by Jamil Hill, and she was talking about it. And I was starting to see how big a business college football was, and how much money and how was going to these schools, and that Black athletes were making these schools rich. And that's what really started to strike me. And the more research that I did, I found out that these kids weren't benefiting from it. As I was doing and researching for the film, I found out like 1.6% of college students make it to the NFL. That's just getting drafted. And you look at this money. So the more and more I learned, the more it brought me to, I had to tell this story, and I care about my community. And I think what struck me the most was I care about Black economic empowerment. And I saw as a example that could be copied in other sectors of America and technology and other things. And it's not. And I look at all these Black athletes and they just run into these schools and they're making them rich. And I'm looking at HBCUs, and through my research, they're crumbling, they're hurting, and I'm like, we could do something about this, and we're not. So that's what really struck me to go forward with this film.
How long did it take for your project to get it going? I mean, for your research and so people can understand the time and what it takes to actually put a production together.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would say the research probably a year, and then pre-production probably another 4 or 5 months, just preparing and everything. But again, this is, independent film. So it's a total different world from Hollywood and all that stuff. You're not getting a lot of help. So it was just crazy. The whole shoot, we shot in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Chapel Hill. I think you guys are from Durham, I think.
Well,
right?
Greensboro, Durham.
Durham, some of that area. Yeah. So yeah, we shot there. So yeah, it was it was a long experience. It was amazing. It was a long experience leading up to the film, but we only had 8 days to shoot it. So that was crazy.
Wow.
We shot that film in 8 days.
Wow.
It almost killed all of us.
Wow.
Normally, a film takes 20 days to shoot. We shot it in 8.
Wow.
Hats off to you, man. Hats off. And to your
it was
actors.
crazy. Yeah, it was crazy.
Anybody else got something? If nobody, let me ask, let me ask this. How familiar were you with your cast, your main actors, and like, did you have an idea of who you had for these roles, or it was just straight audition and this person kind of stood out this? How did you come about selecting your cast?
That's a great question. I had to. It's a site called Breakdown Express, which where all the actors actually come in there, and I had to cast it. Normally you would have a casting director handle that. Let's go back to indie film again. This is micro budget film.
Yeah.
I had to do that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I found all the actors except for Major Threat. Major Threat Bakari was found by Will Boone, the other actor. Okay, and me and Will are friends. So I would say Will, but he brought Bakari in. So, but casting was done by me, and that was during the pandemic. So we actually had to do that over video. So I'm doing video back and forth to get that cast. And it was just most of the time people had one shot before I actually hired those people. But that's how good they were. I mean, I thought they blew it away. I really did. These are all no-name actors.
And
Most of them, the young kid, the one kid, the lead, he's from Wilmington, North
yeah,
Carolina.
I saw that.
And
I saw that.
that kid carried that film. That kid threw up during that film. He got sick. He did everything. And even Bakari is from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Oh wow.
Yes, that played Melvin Major Threat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Well,
that process was something.
what were your, but I know it was hard, with being an indie film, getting everything off the ground. What other obstacles did you face? Like you said, in making this that you had to battle through to get this production.
Oh, wow! I don't think we have enough time.
I'm
gonna make it short.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Money first. Let's just talk about that.
Right.
Making films is expensive.
Yes.
It's expensive, and that's another problem. Black films, we don't get the support. My Caucasian counterparts get grants. They get a lot of money. They get stuff that is very hard for Black filmmakers to get. So that was a problem. But a lot of issues just shooting on the set. The scene where he's on campus with Martin Luther King and all that stuff, we had some guy screaming at us. He was crazy at the park. The police was coming in. It was almost got hit by a train trying to get to another part of the set. It was so many things that went wrong trying to shoot, but you just keep going.
And where were those scenes with Martin Luther King? And where were those scenes at?
That was a park actually in Raleigh.
Okay.
And I forget the name of it, but there was actually, I had to scout those locations too. Became location scout on top of that. But yeah, that was a park in Raleigh that I found.
But you did a good job of shooting that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you did a good job of shooting that.
Yeah, Eric, this is Mackie here. And shout out to Dr. Boone, Dr. Will Boone, who
definitely Dr. Will Boone, definitely.
Yes, man, I met Dr. Boone up at Princeton. He was he taught alongside Dr. Cornell West, and I was with the Phelps Stokes Fund. We had a conference up there. Met this young hip hop professor who was just taking the world by storm. He's at Winston-Salem State University now over interdisciplinary studies program. He's kind of like a 5-star academic acquisition for them, to make an analogy to academia. So my question is to you though, so we're talking about, you mentioned that you were from Ohio State, ballpark figure, that's a $70 or $80 million program. Now, the whole endowment of a Fayetteville State University in the CIAA, which is a school that we cover, is $24 million or so. The whole endowment for the whole school, is eclipsed by a Ohio State's athletic budget. I said all that to say, it would seem to me that people would be jumping at the bit in the HBCU community because it is so lopsided. Have you gotten any traction from HBCUs in bringing your film into their campuses to have a showing at HBCU?
That's a great question, and no, I have not. Not at all. That's an excellent question. And what's interesting about that, I reached out to over 50 HBCUs with emails. I've reached out to coaches. Not one got back to me. Matter of fact, Will Boone, that works at Winston-Salem State, he personally tried to go over and talk to somebody to show the film there. They refused. So these are the things that hurt my heart. And I see sometimes how we get in our own way. And it hurts my heart because I see how powerful we are as a people, but I also see when we don't come together and help each other, we don't move in the ways that we could. So that was very disappointing to me. I actually got one person to respond. He said, "Hey, yeah, I'm interested. I saw the trailer. It's great." And he was like, "Give me a call." I called him, and the number didn't work. I was like, "Wow."
Well,
Wow, it just blew me away.
And that
It really blew
and
me
that's
away.
to piggyback on that, McKee. Do you think, and that might be a discussion for the whole group, because I thought the film brought out the biggest dilemma. We talked about this earlier about how strong that father was and how it was apparent the father was a star at that university prior to that he was pushing his son to go to. Not to give too much away, but do you? I think a lot of that is we don't have those strong figures pushing HBCUs like we should, or to these kids, or to let them know, or I think we sometimes get lost into the big programs and all that instead of saying, "Hey, have you checked out X? Have you checked out this, that, and the third?" And I don't know if you felt that you had to have a strong about your feelings with the parent, the dad, about being a strong. He was a very strong, and I know a lot of it was he was a single dad, but he was a very strong in pushing
Give
his
too
son
much
to
away. That was my favorite character.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I based him a little bit off my own father. My father wasn't that pushy like that, but my father was the type of person I could get a touchdown in the game, I could do well, and he would say what I did wrong.
Right.
He wouldn't say anything that I did right. Or, if it was I didn't do right, he wouldn't say anything. This comes from somewhere, But honestly, I think if I was, and I'll just be honest, if I was Spike Lee, that wouldn't have happened. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. I get that. I'm not big enough. That's the game out here. I'm not going to cry. It's a bunch of grown men up here. It's black men. And I understand that a lot of times it's just a popularity contest. If they look at that and they're like, well, who's Eric Deal? Regardless of the content, I think they just looked at it and said, well, I don't know him. And they ignored it. But if that was Spike Lee's people who had reached him, I think that I would be on a HBCU tour with the film tomorrow.
Right.
That's just honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, right. Well, I thought the subject matter, not to get the subject matter was very good. I know a lot of it was your personal story. Did you hear other stories like that talk about that, about the stories you heard that helped you or motivated you into the main character the way you portrayed him?
Yeah, I try not to take too much from your life, and when you're telling stories, you try to pick and pop and do things. But through my research, I found out that a mother did actually forge a athlete's national letter of intent. That's where I got that from. She did it. He forgave her. She just wanted him to go to a school that she wanted him to go to.
Right.
So yeah. I mean, a lot of these things happen. So yeah, that's some of the things that you deal with. And it was just, yeah, it's that experience I'm trying to think of some other experiences that were similar, but you just keep pulling. What's funny is I tried to even reach out to a couple of athletes. I couldn't get some people to talk to me. It's gotten to the point today where it's like everybody always asks, "Who are you?" first, and if you don't fit something for them,
right.
it's like I don't want to talk to you,
Right.
and it's like not about the content or what you're trying to do or the message you're trying to put out. It's about, do you have some shine already, or do you have this? And I've run into a lot of that. But again, I don't cry. I just keep going forward. You're not gonna stop me. You know, I feel like this is important. Film, even with the HBCUs, I'm gonna come back at them. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna
Good
give
for
up.
you.
They need to see it. We need to talk about it.
And a lot of them need to have the guts too. The HBCUs need to have the guts to not think of them as second to these programs. I mean, we were always, and Ben can echo, we were told, I never forget the one time we were at a Final Four, and I think Ben wanted to get Christian Laettner's autograph or something, and our dad said Christian Laettner should be asking for your autograph. And that's the mentality we have to have, that we are not second to anybody. We're just as important. We're just as good. As I used to tell people everything.
You know you wanted that autograph. Don't act like
I did want that autograph, but I didn't get it. No, I'm just saying what he told you, but he told you, he ain't tell me. But because I didn't have what Christian wanted. But he wanted to be in sweatsuit. Ben was a ball boy. He wanted the sweatsuit that they had. And but
I mean, I was fly.
Yeah. and Ben will tell you I probably would trade a heartbeat. But anyway, no, but all seriousness, it's just I hate that we feel that we've got to placate or be. I think that's what some of us like Hampton and A&T. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying. That's another subject. Are thinking that now, and we just lose that what we are, what we came from, and the importance of the HBCU.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let me
now,
say
considering.
something. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Frick.
No, I just want to say, just simply to those watching as well, if you haven't seen it, check out the HBSU movie, because it also deals with many dynamics of the Black community, aside from just the focus on the sports within the film. Not gonna give some things away, but it deals with some dynamics, parenting, single parenting, mental health. Was that purposely done, or was that just kind of where the script took you, or did you have a real intent to say, I need to bring these elements because these are some things that we deal with that don't often get focused on in our community? Or was it just the creative flow and said, let me add this? What was that inspiration?
That's a great question, and a little of both. You know, a lot of times when you get into the characters and you build them, they start making their own way. It sounds crazy when you're writing it, but they do. But you want to touch on those things. You're right. You want to touch on those things in the community, and that's what I did want to touch on, the community. And one of the biggest things I wanted to touch on was the relationship of Black men to each other. That was what I felt I really wanted to say. How these Black men were responding and acting towards each other. Because I care about that a lot. And when I see bad news, or I see something in Philadelphia and 350 Black men have been shot and things of that nature, those things hurt my heart. And those are the type of things where I said, I want to show Black men with no drug dealing, no this and that, no N-word, none of that was allowed, was going to be allowed in my film. I did not want that. I do not, and this is personally, a lot of people don't agree with me. I do not like that word. I see it all paraded all up in our films. And I'm like, I can't even get in the film anymore because that's every other word. And we got so many words in the dictionary, so many powerful words to uplift, and we sitting up here N-word every minute. So for me, the most powerful thing, I wrote that as a love letter to Black men to say, how are we relating to each other? How are we relating to each other? You know?
How much leeway how much freedom did you give your actors, or did you pretty much give direction, or did they?
That's a great question.
How did
most of what they said is what I wrote.
okay.
I gave them some freedom to ad lib a little bit, but I didn't want them going too far off a script. Sometimes they wanted to say something, and I said, no, we're not going to say that in this film. You know, stop that. You know, even there's some cussing, but I wanted to bring that down too. I don't like those things to take away from the power of what you're trying to say. So yeah, with the actors, most of that was in the script. Only thing I will say is that at one point, a lot of people like the chest thump where he was making him do the push-ups and stuff. That was only twice in the film, and the actor said, we need to get that in one more time. And that was towards the end of the film, with a powerful scene between him and his son.
Yeah.
And that was his choice. Yeah, and that was his choice. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Now, considering that you don't like the words, you may not like the words, but it's part of the culture, unfortunately. So did you ever at any point feel like you were taking any originality away from the film, considering that it was so close to what you wanted to do, even though you may not agree with it? But did you ever feel, or did any of the actors ever feel like, did it ever take away from any kind of authenticity?
By not saying the N-word?
Yeah, by outlawing it, not by not saying it, by just outlawing it. I mean, Will Smith doesn't say it, so
yeah.
Will Smith probably said it though, but
no,
he doesn't say it.
No, he just likes to smack a brother on TV.
Yeah, he said it that night. That's why I said he said it. He said it, but he doesn't use it in his music. Well, so I get it, but I'm wondering if
for us, honestly, as that being a racial epithet, it's not part. If other Black people want to say that's part of their culture, it's not part of mine.
There you go.
And that's my film. Yeah. That's what I want to express. That's my money. I'm paying you.
Yeah, that's right.
This is what I want to say. If you want to make your film and you think that's part of your culture to say that word over and over again, God bless you. Go say it. That's not what I call people brothers, sisters. I call sir. I say ma'am. I don't talk to people that way. And that's not what I want to represent. And I hope one day that isn't part of our culture. And that's not a popular thing to say today, but I don't care. That's not of all the words in the dictionary, and you in love with that word. You ain't in love with the word empowerment. You ain't in love with the word love, but you in love with the word N-word, that you're willing to fight for that. Okay, well, that's on you. I don't judge, but I hope you're not gonna judge me for not saying I don't want it.
Yeah.
Hey, let me give a quick shout out to Amanda. She been in the chat. Conversation been flowing. My bad, Amanda, all the way out of Minnesota, Minneapolis,
and she's on it too. She is on it,
and she comes with it. And to some of your points, Eric, she even said, "Hey, Spike Lee and them won't do nothing to this degree. Too scary." Which, what you're speaking to deals with the economics, the economic power behind these athletes and how these schools reap. If more star athletes, we've had this discussion many times. Myself, D, Ken, and Matt. You know, if that dynamic changes, will it happen? What obstacles would be set in place to stop that? Because it's a game of numbers, a game of economics. So shout out.
So
Shout out,
I
shout
want, I
out,
want to
shout
I
out.
want to double back on something because I missed it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You never talked to Ben and Ken. You got to raise your hand if you want to get one in. So I had to go back. So with that being said, with that being said, we had to rewind a little bit, go back.
Eric, in other words, Eric, he's a little slow. Go ahead.
I threw the shot.
Go ahead,
Matt.
Go ahead, Matt.
But go ahead. So with that being said, because I do talk a little slow, you did talk about the getting your film posted at some of the HBCUs, them taking it on and having it screened there. Did you? I'll back that up with another question. Do you think that, considering that you went to PWI, do you think the PWIs would have picked it up, or have you tried it in PWIs to see if they would?
That's a good question. I did not reach out to any PWIs because I thought it was more important to get to my people first. You know, I thought about getting to them afterwards because they need to see it too. You know, not just my people, and that's a good point. But yeah, I did not reach out to them, but I wanted young people to see it first. I wanted to talk to young people about this because he brought up a great point. It's just, that's what the film is about. It's about a lot of things, but it's about Black economic empowerment because we do have the power, but we don't seem to understand that. And we keep shifting our money out of our community and making other people rich. We need to stop. We need to stop, man. Like you say, these 5-star athletes, these guys going off to these schools, and most of it, 1.6% make it to the NFL. 1.6%. And that's just drafted. That don't mean you're gonna make the team. And so, you know, you look at this stuff, and even this NIL, that's not even what it's cracked up to be. That's not what it's cracked up to be. I've done research on that. The average NIL payment is $3,700. $3,700.
He is right.
Everybody's not getting that money. They have NIL collectives.
Yep.
They've just shifted from boosters to collectives in NIL, where they get money and they using these kids. Right. And these kids are, for every Shadur that gets $4 million, most of these kids is broke. We don't talk about the ones that come out that's beat up, the body, they didn't make it. So, I mean, this is deep, man. Like I say, it's deep, and sometimes I fear that this movie might scare some people sometimes. I think it's a little scary.
It's supposed to provoke thought, though. And that's what it's done. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, no, I'm not worried about it. It's just that I think that people, if we come together, it gets scary. Yeah. If we decide to do that, it gets scary for other people. That's the point.
Minister Society was scary. Man. Well, it did. So I wouldn't worry about that. No, seriously, like it. No, Minister Society really did. I mean, I studies on it. Like it kind of opened people's eyes to what violence looked like.
This is just another type of fear. Fear,
for sure.
Fear of Black people coming together economically is way scarier than them picking up a gun.
Yeah.
That's
I'm talking about fear and truth, not necessarily the activity. But when you see something for the first time and you see what its true face is, scary. So what you've done in this film is you've scared people because you've unearthed the truth that people don't want to discuss, and that happens in many different films across many different genres. So I want to make sure that we don't attach that to violence or drugs and so on and so forth. What I do like and what I do enjoy is that you, as a Black artist, we gotta stick together, is that you were able to grab a topic that is not drug dealing or in some sort of gang violence or the same story over and over again. And you've seen how many versions of power we've actually seen out there in the market. Like everybody has their own version. There are versions of the Sopranos that are just black and it's out there. It's like there's no original thought. This was original thought, and it comes from a place of heart. And I think more artists need to do just that to become. So, what would you say to upcoming artists that are looking for their route? What would you say to them? How would they find their own voice in that industry?
That's an excellent question. Speak the truth. Speak the truth. Find your truth and find the truth of what you're trying to say. What are you trying to say? It's like a lot of people make films to entertain. I get that. We're all trying to entertain. This is not a documentary. But what I would say to people is, don't just entertain. Make sure you got a message. You need to say something. If you're going to spend that money, if you're going to make a film, you're going to have all these people come together, say something of importance. I don't care if it's a little small thing, but it could be a big thing. But make sure you tell the truth and research the truth and get that word out and have no fear in telling that truth.
Hey, Eric, go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to close because I know we did a time check. But go ahead, McKee, if you got it.
No. Okay. Well, I'll just, you was going to do it. I'll do it too. Man, great discussion, great questions, great answers. Everybody check out HBSU on Tubi and on Amazon. What last thing before we go and jump into this MEAC CIAA conversation? What you got coming up next, Eric? What can the people look for out of you in the future?
Yeah, I want to keep making films. I want to build a production company. So next year, I'm can't really say quite yet what I'm working on, but I want to do another feature, and I have some scripts that I'm working. So I'm going to shoot a couple of scenes out of that and put that out and start building up my production company. But I want to keep on making films that say something, really. That's awesome. What I want to do. Just keep, and especially to my people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. And before we let you go, is there anywhere we can find more information to support your efforts going forward? Yeah. Website information.
Okay. Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at HBSU_film.
All right.
And I have another Instagram that's Deal05. And if you want more information on the film or you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can go to hbsu.net. And finally, I want to say I appreciate all you brothers taking the time to talk to me, to ask me such great questions, to take any time to talk to me and watch my film and have this discussion. I appreciate you all. I really do.
Absolutely. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Great job. And you should be proud. You should be proud, man. That's
absolutely
great achievement. I mean, to get it out there, great achievement, man. And we wish you much success. And can't wait to see the next one, man. Can't wait to see the next one.
All right. Thank you, brothers. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. It's gonna touch somebody, trust me.
Yeah, and for those that watch it, he left it open for that. So I'm hoping the follow-up will come. The follow-up will come. But check it out. We appreciate you, brother. We put it right here in the chat, hbsu.net. Yep. Check them out. Support the brother. Reach out to us so we can support Brother Eric. And we applaud you and support everything you're doing. We appreciate you for coming on, brother.
Appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
I started to tell him he needs to check out a great young actor in this movie called The Ultimate Gift that he might have featured in his next in his next role. But I held be lawyer. I held
want to be lawyer.
He needs to check that. He needs to check that brother out. He might star in the next one.
The Ultimate Gift. Well, it is holiday season, so The Ultimate Gift. Yeah. Sorry, James Garner. and we'll leave it at that.
And
But,
please purchase it, a great Christmas gift.
So let's dive into it. We got a few minutes to get into what's going on. So first off, let's go to as you see it flashing up. Virginia Union went to Kutztown University in Pennsylvania in the first round of Division II playoffs, and it was a rough one. And Kutztown beat them 38-14. Any thoughts on what we see or that matchup? Mackie, K Free D, what you got? Any thoughts?
Kutztown's a very interesting name. I know that much.
It's a barber school. No, I'm joking. And
Oh my God.
actually, shout out to the running back at Kutztown, Jordan Davis, who played at Trotter Recreation Center, played football and basketball at my rec center. His aunt, Antoinette Bird, is one of our recreators here in the city of Greensboro. Jordan was a tough football player, and he's actually at Kutztown as a running back. So he's doing his thing. So shout out. So I got ties to Kutztown, so I'm gonna claim sort of a victory there. No, but go ahead. I just want to throw that in.
Well, I mean, let me just ask, because McKee brought this up. I think we talked about, does this change, or are you still holding pat to about bowls and what the CIAA champion should do, or you still think that Virginia Union should have just tried to see and see how far they go in the playoffs?
Yeah, like I said last week, we don't have any information on what the Florida Beach Bowl is paying out. I haven't seen anything on a payout on them. Matter of fact, I looked up Division II bowls, the history of Division II bowls, and they've never paid out much of anything. I hope this one is different. And you know, the concept of building up the Florida Beach Bowl, that's a tough order for a program that needs to do things right now. You know, these jobs are very, very tenuous, and those are long range decisions, in my opinion. I think the AD and the coach at Virginia Union, they do get a certain it might not be the amount of money people want, but they get some money for going to the playoffs.
No, they don't.
And
no, they don't.
No,
they don't.
They don't get any.
No.
In D2?
No. And FBS. No. You pay your freight. You got to get that. They don't get no. It ain't basketball.
No, that's not what I've seen.
No, they don't get paid.
That's not what I.
Oh wow.
They don't get paid. They get the bid. You get the bid. You get the bid, but you got to go to the. If you're the lower seed, you got to go. You don't get paid to go get your butt kicked. They don't pay you to go play in football. You play there. Your prize is to make it to the championship.
Yeah, well, that's not what I always heard, but especially with 1AA FCS, I'd heard the payout.
You don't make no money
if you made it to the whole. You got to show us something on that, because that'll be an education for everybody.
But so either way, you don't make the money. You don't make the money you make.
You're not making any going. Well, you're not making any going to the Florida. You're not making any going to the Florida Beach Bowl.
But $10. If I make $10, that's more than I did going to Kutztown.
Well, you gotta show us what that you don't make anything. You gotta put that out there. If you don't,
okay.
Now, Kenny, are you talking
about I'm not saying I know. I'm not saying I know that.
Are you talking about the playoffs, or are you talking about the actual bowl games?
Playoffs.
The playoffs. I'm not making the claim that I know that you do.
The FCS playoffs.
Yeah, you don't make no. You don't.
I'm not making the claim that I know that you do.
It's not like. Yeah, it's different from basketball.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to pay for that many people.
You're an NCAA Division II school.
Correct.
So you agree to a playoff structure.
Correct.
By being a member. You agree to the play,
and you win your championship, and you get a right to go play in the playoffs. Yeah, but the NCAA
right.
ain't
and when
paying
you go
for
to but when you go to a bowl, you're going outside of that structure.
Correct. Right.
So it should make sense. You don't go outside of the structure that you've agreed to, unless it benefits you, because you're going outside of your agreement to a degree.
Correct. So basically, if you knew so it would make a difference if it was a $200,000 payout. You would have said Virginia Union should have went to the bowl.
I'm saying it makes sense if they make a decision like that, of course.
Right. Well, to me, it's just because of the seeding and everything. It would have been interesting if Virginia Union was undefeated. What they would have done, what seeding they would have got.
Yeah, but the CIAA seed can only be remedied by going to places and beating people that you're not supposed to beat.
You're exactly right. You are exactly right. You are exactly right.
Yeah, like Saturday, that was another opportunity, and Kutztown might have a funny name, but they are, which is why you said what you said last week. They are perennial power in D2. Mm-hmm. They have a great reputation there.
And like I told Ben, you got Lenore Ryan coming up to Columbia, who wants to prove something.
Yeah. Well, I know with the structure with like FBS, you used to have to pay to win a bid to host playoff game. And that goes directly to the NCAA, and you just hope to recoup
when you host it. When you host it.
Yeah.
Now they get Kutztown gets to keep.
I have to do more research on that.
Kutztown gets to keep the gate. Kutztown gets to keep the gate, Mary.
But even still, I'm kind of on. Well, I'm on both sides of that fence, and I say this, and then we'll move forward. But because I like to see where we match up. I like to go. I like the playoffs, and we'll get to that even with Central, but where it kind of works out, because you want to see where you measure up. The way I would move in this situation if I'm VUU for a bowl is if we gonna get a nice lump sum guaranteed. But I think with the kind of curiosity around what's going on with the Florida Beach Bowl, I don't blame them in this decision going to play in the playoffs. I mean, hey, let's make the move, see where we at. We had a great season. I think though that thing is kind of conditional. I think if we had a clear understanding like we had with the Celebration Bowl, I think it makes that decision very easy. I think in this instance, you can't blame a champion for wanting to go, test the waters. I look at my Tigers. We've been ranked. We got number 1 seed, which means the possibility of hosting all the way up to the regional final. So if you keep winning and advancing, you got more home games. Now, it still depends on those fans to come out and buy tickets and us to rally around the school and support. But if you win and continue and get the fan support, it seems that it could be just as lucrative, as well as marketable. You're playing in your home stadium.
Right. Now I will say this. To Williams. I'll concede this to Williams. To Williams' point, V Union might get something from CIAA for winning the conference championship to help them pay to go to Kutztown. Now that might be you win a conference championship, you get X amount of dollars. Now that might be, but the NCAA ain't gonna pay you nothing to go.
But pivoting, speaking of Florida Beach Bowl, because I know the time we running.
Yeah, but John C. Smith.
We don't know these things, these intricacies of payout and what's the draw, but we do have the teams that are planning to play. And we have from the CIAA, Johnson C. Smith, 7-3, that will be taking on the Fort Valley State team that is also 7-3 out of the SIAC. Any thoughts about that? And those teams, unique matchup. Johnson C. Smith coming from Charlotte, North Carolina, Fort Valley, Georgia. A little further north in Georgia. But what are the thoughts on that?
I think it's about who's going to bring the people. Who travels well? Do they travel well? I mean, I'm asking. I don't know.
Thoughts, y'all? I don't. Yeah.
Look at McKee.
Regionally, does it make sense, y'all?
Do they travel well, McKee? Johnson Smith travel well?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
I've never known Johnson C. Smith to travel well. But A&T used to play him, and they used to not bring anybody to Greensboro, and it's Charlotte. like it's,
right. So, well, I'll say this: if you don't make the playoffs, for example, in this case, I think it's a great reward. I think postseason play, a good matchup in a beautiful location, might be a bit far to travel, but beautiful location. I think in that case, just like I think in North, I won't steal the thunder, but in North Carolina Central's case, it's a great consolation prize to be able to play postseason, and with them in the FCS. I'll say this, like I said last week. Yeah, and like I said last week, you can't live and die off of payouts, whether it's money games for FCS, HBCUs, whether it's Power 5. They don't live off of the bowl money. That's gravy. Now, not that HBCUs would be able to compete at their level, but you got to have a foundation of revenue, irrespective of if you play postseason or not. And that's the heavy lifting that people don't want to talk about, because the average person that you talk to is usually not even a member of their alumni association, which is nothing but usually $55 or $60, and let alone giving gifts to the program. So if you're not a tub that sits on its own bottom, these money games and the payouts are really insignificant. Nobody has prospered and gotten rich off of money games. No. All the schools taking money games are pretty much where they were before they started taking them. Now, that's not to say that they're not a good idea, but they're a good idea if you have a undergirding of a foundation of money from your own. Then a money game helps you in some other areas, but you can't live off that.
No. And I wouldn't. But I wouldn't say that. Like I said from the beginning, I'm of a cost. I'm an econ major, so I look at cost versus benefit cost analysis, and I always look at that. And if my thing is, and from what my sources were telling me, it was at least $250,000. Now I don't know if that's split amongst the schools as well as and what the winner gets or whatever out of that bowl. I don't know how they get it. And I don't want to be disrespectful to Johnson C. Smith and Fort Valley State, but I'm just asking you, does that make y'all want to go see it? I mean, not to be. I mean,
moving on. We still got to cover the MEAC.
I'm just saying.
I need to put out a disclaimer. Let me put out this disclaimer. The thoughts.
But you got to sell tickets, Ben. You got to sell. You got to sell tickets.
I get that. But there you go. Well, I say this comes down to this too. Y'all mentioned alumni base.
Yeah.
And I think it starts there. You reach out to these alumni bases in those areas to try to stir up the interest in it. I really think that
I don't know.
I would assume, and I know it's never safe to assume, that they might have a marketing strategy to try to make Fort Lauderdale adopt this game, hopefully, so that it becomes a signature event for the city of Fort Lauderdale to embrace, so
Right.
that they kind of look forward to it and attend it. But if you're looking at it surface level, yeah.
My whole thing is how
It's tough to
getting butts
call.
in. You got to put butts in the seat, or you
Yeah.
got to make an
So
economic impact. To William's point, it's got to be an economic impact on the city.
yeah, no
That
doubt,
Yeah.
no doubt.
that makes them. That's why people fight like mad dogs to get the CIAA tournament, because of the economic
Yeah,
impact that it's going to give to the
yeah,
city.
yeah.
Yep.
So that's
Basketball
Yep.
season starting. So,
so we know
well, I feel
that's what that's what's the numbers I want to see after the Florida
Beach Bowl.
Beach Bowl.
Yeah,
That's what I
and
want to
that is
know.
December 13th.
Yep.
So be on the lookout
Yep.
for that. So with that, let's flip it, because we got two scenarios. We got Celebration Bowl, and we got the Central Eagles going to the
Which
FCS
is rightfully
playoff,
so. Which is good. That's good for
which
Central.
is rightfully so. They've been a dominant
Good for
team
Central.
program all season. They've been rewarded for a great season. And let me start by this. Does it show the great decision for the MEAC to keep their option open for the playoffs, whether champion or whatever? And it may not have come to this because Howard is the outright champion, but
Howard wasn't gonna make the playoff.
we know Howard's going with the money. Huh?
Howard wasn't gonna make the
Yeah,
playoff.
Howard's going with the money.
Yeah.
Say what?
Howard wasn't gonna make the playoff.
But well, they
You
weren't,
know
but
you saying because they were conference champions. You saying because they conference
they
champions.
they're outright champions.
Right.
But we know, as far as record, strength of schedule, you know Howard had a tough schedule, with a couple money games. But Central has been rewarded, and they're going to the playoffs. As you see the scores, final week of the MEAC season, South Carolina State closes out Buddy Pugh's last game, 44-17 over Norfolk State. Central with a dominating win over the Hornets of Delaware State. And then Howard pulled off and I got to make it up to Amanda. I know I let you down. I had predicted. I had, Amanda, don't be like that. Don't be like that.
I'm with you, Amanda. I'm with you.
Howard, they gonna get down there and pull out some T80. Do it. They go T87s down, calculating the length of the field, the depth. No, let me stop. Shout out to Howard.
Kamala might come to the Celebration Bowl.
Yeah, she might be down there and bring Sleepy Joe with her. Hey, but look, Howard edged it out over Morgan State. Great contested game.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I had to give, Ken and McKee, I had to give them one, But what do you think about it? Yeah. What thoughts on it? Mac, any thoughts? Celebration Bowl, Howard, which it looked like right now FAM has clinched the SWAC championship game, and so that's coming up. I'm sorry if I'm off, not sure who they're playing, but more than likely FAMU's been dominant, so it looks like FAMU's coming in. So once again, a unique Celebration Bowl with the same dilemma of the Florida Beach Bowl. Will these teams travel? Yes,
right.
Prairie View. Thank you, Amanda. Prairie View. So FAMU's playing Prairie View in the chip. Will the Rattlers travel? Will Howard travel? That's a big question. Thoughts? Talk to me.
I don't think it's going to be a problem with FAMU and Howard. I don't think, and what the Celebration Bowl is already built up a thing, and it's in Atlanta, So I mean, I think that sells itself. I don't think that's going to be. I think because of the way Howard they I don't think they even thought they would be here, and they got here. I think it's going to be a big deal for them. Um, I, I was just looking, man. I tell you, boy. Well, I just tell you. So Central's going to travel to Richmond, but Central's record, oh my God, is better than
Yeah.
had, and they traveling. I mean, you got a Southern Illinois that's 7-4, and they're hosting. You got Delaware 8-3 hosting. I mean, it's just it's just amazing to me, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
Well, the
but that's
stipulation of
me being
the
that's just
strength of schedule or
yeah, I
conference
mean,
power.
they did,
Yeah.
they did. I think that loss hurt them. Yeah, but if they don't lose, they not go into the playoffs. They go into the Celebration Bowl. But I mean, losing to Howard and losing, that hurt. So, but I think it's going to be a successful
Yeah,
Celebration Bowl. I do. I think it'll still be successful.
yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Ken. The Celebration Bowl is kind of made for success. Not that it's
Mhm.
a foregone conclusion that schools are going to travel, but like you said, it's Atlanta. There's a lot of HBCU alumni in Atlanta from all the major schools. So those
Mhm.
local alumni associations in that Gwinnett, Atlanta County area, metropolis, they can mobilize when they're right there in Atlanta. And the Celebration Bowl, it's a special type of event for FCS sports and what
Mhm.
we call 1AA. And being the HBCU factor, which our schools deserve that and more, but it's a special case because FCS does not generate the kind of funds, whether it's Youngstown State, or Morgan State. It doesn't generate the kind of notoriety that sponsorships and major TV deals wrap around. And that's where your
Mhm.
funding comes from with payouts. It comes from simple economics again. What does this do for my company and my brand and my station? If it's a small FCS school with a small alumni base, because the school is about 5,600 students, it just doesn't generate what D1 bowls do. But the Celebration Bowl is a special case. And, with what Ken pointed out earlier, the way the FCS playoff system is structured, and it's structured off the weight of those schools.
Mhm.
Whether it's Furman, whether it's Youngstown State, these schools don't bring in a lot. So they don't pay out a lot. So yeah, Celebration Bowl is in your purview. You take it if you're a MEAC or SWAC school. You don't ask any
Mhm.
questions because
Mhm.
it's $1 million versus the amount that Ken cited earlier. So, so yeah, how, Howard will be there. That is a top tier HBCU.
Yeah.
They're gonna be in Atlanta strong, like you said, Ken. FAMU has a big alumni base in Atlanta. As I shut up what this is, but I will say this, and we love Amanda, but I'll say this about Howard. Howard beat Central 50-20, so it was not a field goal going away. It was not they beat them between the tackles. And
Mhm.
that young man for Howard, they had two rushes. One rusher had over 100 yards yesterday against Morgan State, and the other back had about 80. So any team that can get it done between those tackles, they're going to consume the clock. They're going to take the air out of the ball. They got a chance to win because they can move those sticks. And the
Mhm.
moment you move up on their running game, they have some great wide receivers and a quarterback that can deliver the ball. So yeah, Howard is something, and it's gonna be fun if it's FAMU, which I
Mhm.
think it's gonna be a fun game because that's an old MEAC battle again. No disrespect to their new SWAC affiliation.
and Jay Walker should be very happy doing the game.
No, we're not getting into that. D, any thoughts?
What?
No, I agree with them. I'm learning.
Well,
What they call it.
I'm gonna say this. I like the Eagles going to Richmond. This is a Richmond team that Morgan State beat early in the year. We know it was early, but I like their shot. I like their path.
I do too.
Albany gets the winner of both winnable path for the Eagles. So we're gonna be rooting the Eagles on, and this is and I'm gonna be honest with you secretly. This is kind of what I hope. I wanted to see because no, I will be honest, because the way Central, they went out, they scheduled, they beat some good teams. I really wanted to see them measure up against some of the nation's best. So I'm not gonna lie. That year A&T was undefeated. I wanted to see them in the playoffs rather than the Celebration Bowl. I know the economics rule, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm not.
Ben, it's not so much the economics. Is you got North Dakota State, you got Youngstown State, you got that's not. Why am I gonna get my head beat in when I can make this cheddar? I'm like,
this is a thing that's been tested, man. I like the chances. I remember what year was that? It might have been 01-02 where A&T and FAM in the MEAC went to the playoffs and both advanced to third and fourth round. Now Youngstown State put both of them out, but I mean they made a good run. They had strong teams, a strong year. This is 01-02. I can't remember, but
because I remember 2000. I remember Alan Hooker's year, and we went to Georgia Southern, and it was not pretty at all.
I think I was still in diapers then. I don't want to hear about that.
That was not fun. And then we went to Eastern Kentucky, where South Carolina State went. Jeffries, and that was not fun. That was a long drive.
But I'm gonna be honest. I want to get everybody's take on it. Now y'all fronting if y'all ain't had that question, like, how good is Central? And can they stack up against some of the best in FBS? Y'all ain't had that question. Don't sit up here. God don't like.
Oh, I do. I'm clear. I'm clear. I always want to. Because of the financial situations of their programs. Unfortunately, the $1 million of the Celebration Bowl is it's a no-brainer. You have to take it. But I'll say this. You can preserve the heritage of HBCU matchups and be a full participant in the NCAA, which you're doing compliance to be in. I mean, why do all of that compliance means test for all the eligibility standards, the spring sports that you have to be FCS? If you're not going to be wanting to see where you measure up with your peers, and you can do both. Somebody brings you $1 million bag in the Mercedes Bowl Dome, of course, but that doesn't negate the fact that either through your regular season play, or if you don't make the Celebration Bowl, i.e., a very good North Carolina Central team. Shout out to Commissioner Dennis Thomas for giving the MEAC, when they did the original negotiations, he kept the option open, which was a smart move because he knew that some years there are two teams that could get at-large bids. And everybody on North Carolina Central's team, the alumni, I'm willing to bet, would rather play in the playoffs than sit at home this coming Saturday, and I like their chances. I think I like y'all just said, y'all agree. I like their chances this week, and they can't go to the Celebration Bowl because Howard's going. So hey, it's the playoffs.
Playoffs. No, let me stop.
It's the playoff. It's the playoff.
First of all, on a coaching standpoint, any coach is gonna want extra games. You gonna want the extra game.
That's right.
However, coach, reality does set in eventually, and I'll just leave it at that.
What? No. This I see that right there. You ain't been following the Eagles this year. I'm disappointed.
Huh?
I'm disappointed in that. You ain't been following Eagles.
No, I like that. But I like. I
things.
know. I didn't say that. I'm just saying reality. You know what's good. You okay?
Yeah. I like their chance.
I like like five. You do know they have to win like 5 straight road games.
It's not about winning chance, but I like their matchup. I like the path they're on.
First week,
like
Pyrrhic victories get you what? Pyrrhic victories get you what? Pyrrhic victories get you what?
But guess what?
Pyrrhic victories get you what?
Guess what, though?
Nothing.
These other teams that are competing, as we saw when Central went to
you
Howard.
Want to compete. You want to compete. You want to compete. I get that.
But what I'm saying is you have to win a ball game on that Saturday. It ain't about the path down the street. It's about winning that game on that Saturday. And I think the path Central has in those first couple rounds, if they win, are very winnable games. They're great matchups for them. Like I say, this Richmond team is a very good matchup. Morgan State beat them at Richmond.
Ken, where?
Okay. But you got to win 5.
Albany, who plays
to get to the championship.
Huh?
The path. I'm talking about the path.
But everybody's got to win on each Saturday. All I'm pointing out is I like the matchups early in the playoffs to get momentum. That's all I say.
That's great.
There's no guarantee that North Dakota State's gonna win it all.
I agree.
They got to win
South Dakota State, because South Dakota State's looking really good too.
Well, all of them.
Yeah, they kind of surpassed North
Dakota. South Dakota State
still got to win the game on Saturday.
So where are y'all with money games?
Well, Daddy started that, so I gotta support it. Because Daddy was always like, Daddy started that. If you want that butt weapon, you got to pay for it. So he's always said about it.
I supported to this in 2 instances, and Amanda said
but
she'd rather
do one a year.
She still rather go to celebrate. I know we want to be in Atlanta celebrating and partying and winning $1 million.
But give to your school, y'all. Give to your schools, not Amanda. But just in general, don't go down there and feed those hotels and those eateries. Atlanta loves it. The business community of Atlanta loves it.
Yeah.
Make sure that you embody those athletic programs as alumni and pay. It's people going to those games, and not that this just happens with us. I'm not saying that, but most people down there are not writing those $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 checks and giving them to that AD. So let this be a rallying cry to empower your program to go to the next level.
Yeah.
Don't let it just be a 5 DJs on 5 floors. The kind of stuff we get. Not just us, but he got 5 DJs. Why I need 5 DJs on 5 floors? I'm looking up like I can't handle 2 floors.
Well, hey, one's R&B, one's jazz.
I know, yeah. 4 floors reggae.
The money gains from this standpoint, though. Yes, we mentioned the financial levels of our programs, but I think it can be a recruiting tool. I think because I'm gonna be honest, I played at Little Old Benedict College, but If they were like, hey man, we going to play Carolina Duke every year, or the University of South Carolina up the street, I'm like, what? We're gonna get a chance to display our talent
Right.
against a major.
Right.
I think it should be pivoted as a recruiting tool. We look at you gonna get beat up, but I want to play the best. If I believe in my talent, and people might think different, if I believe in my talent, I want to play the best and show it.
And as a
Uh,
competitor,
so,
you going to feel
so,
that way.
so
Yeah, as a competitor, yeah.
I think we have to look at now during the season where some MEAC teams play two, and we know that's based on the room because the conference is so small. I'm not so sure about that. But as again, if you pivoted as a recruit, look who we playing. We playing two FBS teams a year and such and such. And people might look at it like, yeah, that's what I want. I want to go here. If we go here and bring in top recruits, guess what? We'll compete against these teams, and you get that sense of that. But if we look at it like, hey, we need the money, we're gonna go get beat up.
We can't,
It's
we
tough
can't
to build on that.
Anyway, and to that point, McKee, too, the money game, it's to get these games, at first it was you got to pay us because you want to win, because they want you to come. Initially, it was want to win. If you take the mentality like, Appalachian State used it to build, so now they're in FBS. You can use that as a springboard because they end up beating Michigan at Michigan. They beat, I forgot who else they beat, the next year. So it's, we need to, like Ben said, use these too, especially with the transfer portals. You don't know if a kid at Florida is like, man, did you see South Carolina State the other day? I'm transferring, I got a year eligibility going to South Carolina State. We got to get these kids to see what we offer, just like Eric Deal had on there. I thought what he brought out about the bells and whistles, it ain't all about the bells and whistles. It's what HBCU offers and has to offer and what it can do. And let's build something. Let's build where our program is making money, sustaining, building, where we, like you brought out, that was brilliant when you brought out about Ohio State's football budget compared to Fayetteville State and the school's budget. I mean, we got to get on that mentality of, well, I want my budget to be where Ohio State is, if not better. And so we need to bring that same competitive spirit that you want to show in the 1AA playoffs. We need to bring that same competitive spirit with administration, with fundraise, with building our athletic programs and getting better. Academics, we already there. I mean, academics, but we got to do that. You know what I'm saying? And be that.
We do.
That same competitive spirit.
That's right. Because right now, in the MEAC and the SWAC, as long as that celebration bowl is in place, paying what it pays, you test your wares in the regular season with a money game, or you play Youngstown State in the regular season, but you do all you can do to win your conference and get down to Atlanta. And I will say this: you got to admit, and this may be arguing against my ultimate point, but it ain't about that. It's about what's right. That $1 million prize that North Carolina A&T got for about 3 years in a row had a substantial impact on taking their program to that. As far as what Ben was saying with recruiting, it was huge. That $1 million was huge, and we saw with that, and that program had come from a very dormant place just a few years back. Just a few years back, but that bowl game money, it did. So, yeah. But if you're in the MEAC, you got 5 weeks to play anybody you want and test your ways. You got 5 weeks, man.
But to that respect, too, you can still make a lot of money on the traditional game.
Yes, you can.
On the traditional games, I hate that they left. that we don't have those anymore. But you could make just as much money on those games as you can on anything else. I mean,
Well, Amanda asked a great question. So before we close out, pass it. Y'all
Yes, he did.
jump on that. Who wants it first? Who wants it first?
no, it wasn't no,
Yeah, I
it
don't
wasn't
think so either.
no, it was not create. No,
Yeah.
it was the
Okay.
concept, and I may be overstepping a little bit, Ben, but you correct me if I'm wrong. The concept basically came from the fact the SWAC had the Bayou, and they're normally Grambling and Southern were the champs, but they were allowed to forego it because they wanted to play the Bayou because they knew they'd go make more money in the Bayou Classic than in the 1AA playoffs. So then the idea of the bowl came from our dad's Heritage Bowl, Freedom Bowl, and everything. And I think the Celebration Bowl evolved from that. And they just said, hey, why we don't want Southern and them to miss out, and let's do that and just have a black national champion. And the MEAC, being they were the only 2 1AA conferences, MEAC was on board with that. With, like William said, they kept the option of another team, if they qualified, could go to the 1AA playoffs, like Central's doing. But yeah, that was the idea was to create a black national champion. Because at that time, people don't remember there was a BET or BET poll,
And
and
Sheridan.
they had the Sheridan poll, and they would rank the teams according to that. And for a while, A&T was what Ben said was number 1 and all that, and so they did all that. But great question. No, great question.
A quick hit at that question, just feeding off what you said.
Yeah.
Great question, and that's what you could argue that's what it does. Whether or not they did it to do that, don't have it, like Ken said, don't have the evidence on that. But you could argue that's what it does. I would say briefly that the Celebration Bowl was a genius idea because there's market there. There's market there. If you look at the numbers, the TV numbers and the attendance numbers that bowl has done since it was founded, and then with Deion Sanders became the coach at Jackson State, it's money in them their heels, and it from the beverage commercials to the facility, that is a market for the money that oscillates around our schools. And I think that they saw the market. They said, hey, this would be a good financial day for everybody involved, including the schools. If it wasn't a good market for it, they wouldn't be having this game.
Right.
Because they're not into charity like that. They don't do that.
But they're thankful for the Freedom Bowls, the Heritage Bowls, the show to lay the groundwork, and it's really because our dad originally did it off of he wanted to showcase all the black college athletes, the talents, and make it an all-star, right? But it just evolved into let's take champions or let's take 2 good teams from each conference and see what we do, see what happens. So great question.
Go ahead, McKee.
Yeah, a quick question. I'm gonna ask this to D. Since D and Eric Deal had joked about not being HBCU grads. I've always maintained the idea, and I just ask you this, just a quick question. I know the time is now, but HBCU success, in my opinion, has never. It can't just be HBCU graduates because a lot of our institutions have small enrollment of populations, and the business ownership in our community, the tax write-off money is just not as plentiful. What do you think about as a non-HBCU graduate? Do you think that non-HBCU folks that happen to be black should give and help make these schools like other communities kind of support. They, you know,
I mean, I think so. I think anybody should give based on the reason. If the reason is at your heart to give, I think you should give, regardless of what your background and history came from. If I could give to A&T's basketball program or athletic program, I would, because I think for me, the reason being is because I'm homegrown Greensboro, number one, and A&T's significance is bigger than that of the school that I went to, which was UNCG. Is it means more to the city of Greensboro in its historical significance as much as it's meant to the Black community, and especially when you grow up around people who were Dudley then A&T graduates, and I know a number of them that did both, so it's a bigger deal for them, and you see what that significance is. So I think I don't know that we should attach it to just people who went to a PWI. It's just, look, we got to find people who are willing to give for the right reasons, and do so by recognizing what the HBCUs are going through, and then just doing it regardless of what university you went to. I mean, because you have to think about it. If I'm from Greensboro and I went to Carolina, and I went to the NBA and I had a couple of years, probably still giving to A&T, even if I didn't finish at Carolina. Like, if I'm a one and done, my heart still feels the same. So, you know what I mean? I think we have to look at it that way, not just necessarily the Black folk that went to PWIs, because and PWIs, what the Black folk have are their own communities within the PWI. So they band behind the PWI, but I guess you could say, I'm saying they like I'm white. We first off, let me fix that. We have a tendency to ban and find that particular brotherhood behind the curtain of the PWI, but we're building it off of a similar strength of what you see very openly at HBCUs. So with that, you can find a lot of Black folk that did graduate from PWIs more willing to give to HBCUs, because we see it. We see what the HBCU experience means, because we find that within our own micro group at the PWI. So I think you could find it for sure.
Hey, well said. And big shout out to Chris Paul and Magic Johnson and a lot of those athletes that didn't attend but have really been generous. And big shout out to your Spartans. Y'all got a big upset victory over University of Arkansas the other night.
Oh
And McKee, Chris Paul is a HBCU grad.
Yeah, he's an HBCU grad. So Chris did.
Yeah. Well, no, no. Yeah. Well, let me go a little further. Dr. Will Boone, who's over liberal studies, he was under his department. Dr. Boone is who introduced us to Eric Deal. So, there's not a Ram that does not know that. But what I'm saying is, he chose WSSU to finish, which he didn't have to do.
But and you noticed about that. No.
He was over the Players Association, right, when the NBA started making the move to connect with HBCU as well.
But Wake Forest wouldn't let him finish.
I don't know if he's still over it.
You always say?
Wake Forest wouldn't let him finish. But that's another story.
Yeah, but his plan was always to go back anyway and finish. So it was he was always telling
it wasn't gonna be at Wake Forest.
No, definitely wasn't gonna be at Wake Forest. But his plan was always.
Well, that's what happens with a lot of athletes.
What'd you say? Ben?
No, that happens with a lot of athletes that try to go back, and some schools won't. They're like, no, it's been too long. You got too far to go. I.e. Dion going to Talladega.
Yeah.
To finish. So That is a situation.
The part of true. But the way he has put Winston-Salem State, the visibility he's given it, is yeoman's work, and that hadn't been done by a lot of other guys. I name them if it has.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
What Wake
Yeah.
What Wake Forest will or won't do, that's really not my point. Is
no right.
He brought visibility to Winston,
but it took him to. But the counterpart, and I hate to be that guy, but I'm gonna be that guy. The counterpart is
don't be that guy.
I got to. The counterpart is it took him to grow up to realize that. When he was 18, he wouldn't have gave two rats behinds of what Winston-Salem State was, which is what your boy's film is about. So Winston-Salem State was the same when he was at West Forsyth.
So,
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna fault him for where he chose. I'm not gonna fault him for where he signed.
Well,
and he did have an
come till later.
His dad was a Winston-Salem State.
That's why I was just about to go. There's a little bit of correction there. Chris wanted
a lot of correction,
and that's what I talked about before. Yeah. That his daddy was like, "Your ass." Never mind. That's another story. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way about. I'm applauding that we're so accepting as a HBCU that Chris, come on. But when it matters, when it matters, it's later when they're like, we need to do something for HBCUs. Well, what happened when you were going to be a number something draft pick in the first place? Ain't nothing changed.
There was a little bit
now
of
you awake and been like, man, I should have gone to Winston State. Well, gee, thanks. Next time when they announce you in the starting lineups, make sure they say graduate of Winston State. I bet you they won't. When they say at guard, Golden State Warriors, I bet they say Wake Forest.
They better not say Wake Forest.
They do.
They do. But this is what that argument misses. As a community, and I'm not saying I agree with this, as a community, we marched and fought for equal access into those institutions. Our leadership and rank and file people marched in the streets to be able to go to Wake Forest, to be able to go to Vanderbilt. So when people exercise that option, they just exercise that option. You're never going to get all the athletes to say, no, I'm going to go to Winston over Wake. I wish they would. Of course we do.
But that's two different arguments. Don't come to me pointing out, man, HBCU this, because it took you that long to realize it.
I don't care how long it took you.
But still,
if I'm in lead, we talking about two different perspectives. If I'm in leadership at those schools, I can't. I wish you would have noticed it in high school, but I know that our kids are up under marketing pressures from Wake Forest, everything in every store they've ever grown up in. And that's the only thing that's on
what
TV.
My man is talking about in this movie.
So
I mean, it's not about that where you can go. I get what the option. Shiny car, we're gonna go see. I mean, it's shiny car. That's going to be attractive to people, and maybe that's what we as HBCUs need to do if we want to build our programs better. But the only way to do that is money and people taking the initiative to say, hey, I'm a top 5 athlete, but I'm gonna go to A&T because they need me more than Michigan does or Duke does. And Max
Stradamus, he's right up your alley, Max Stradamus.
No, just what I'm saying is, so when we just using Chris as the example, and I'm using Chris only as the example because we have this happens to so many kids year after year, and I know you guys notice, but Chris wasn't a super high top prospect. coming out. Not all 4 years. Like you got to again. You're hearing this coming from somebody who I got this from somebody very close to the source. Hold on a second. I know what he was, but Chris ultimately
he was a bad
wanted
boy
to go. Yeah, but he wanted to go to Wake. UNC was recruiting him, but they wanted him to walk on. Again, you're talking. This is very close. I'm not gonna name the source. Just know the source. Source very close to the situation. I had this conversation.
I know the source.
He wanted UNC wanted him to walk on. Duke didn't give him a look, man. And Wake Forest was convincing him, but his idea early on was going to Winston-Salem State. But to your point, and McKee makes this point all the time, the reason this happened so much is because the resources at Wake Forest are not that of the resources of Winston-Salem State. And as a result, that's where they end up. But what I'm saying is, in his heart of hearts, this was always the plan to come back and finish at Winston-Salem State. He had no true interest in finishing at Wake Forest. And that's why it ended up being a little bit contentious for a minute. But it was his goal was to come back and finish at Winston-Salem State.
And he did.
And that's what he did. But yeah, it's and me, McKee, and Free, so Kenny, you just get in this conversation. This is an argument I have with them all the time, which is the power. I'm dead serious. We argue about this all the time. The power of the power is in the kids. The kids have to be able to make the decision to go where they want to go. And if they want to go to an HBCU, they can. And other kids will follow, and then you'll see that power structure shift. So
preach, Matt.
Earlier,
preach.
Yeah, and what Amanda said earlier was she went cell therapy on us. It was like to create a celebration mode to keep our ass in. but that's what they did to Dion, because Dion was shifting the power structure. I'm willing to put that more on Dion than I would be the Celebration Bowl, because Dion was starting to change the power structure when you got Travis Hunter, who's being recruited by, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Florida State.
Yeah,
and you got him to change to go to the SWAC. Yeah. They said somebody dangle Dion a carrot and get him up out of there, because we get ready to lose all our 5-star recruits if we keep up with this mess. And Dion's in Colorado. That's a win for the PWIs, whether people want to realize it or not. And I'm using a double entendre when I say that's a win for all the PWIs. You get the competition, you get to root the competition right on up out of there, and you get this program, which is an FBS program, back in contention again, and competitive. And the Pac-12 is about to break up, all kinds of stuff going on. Let's get some star power in one of our FBS. Let's pull it out. Stay with that one, Amanda. I wouldn't put that on the Celebration Bowl, but it's until we can get the NIL was the start, though, Kenny. And this is what I believe. The NIL, and this is why Ben said the Negro Diamonds comment, because I've been calling it. I said as soon as they start allowing these kids to make their own money, it's gonna turn. Now, where I will give Ben credit, it's not gonna turn as fast as I thought it was, though. But
here's the thing. The biggest school, the PWIs got Mitsubishi, BMW Motors as they partner. While the HBCU got Daddy Green's Pizza and Real. No, I'm joking.
Wrong. Now for you, but what you need to know is
the movie. Don't act like that. Shout out to Daddy Green.
But what Dion did, is a part of a collective.
Yeah.
And Dion brought that and was able to compete with his collective to get kids to leave or decommit to come to Jackson State.
Yeah.
Because he convinced, and to Williams' point, Jackson State's administration didn't think closed-minded. They were like,
Yeah.
hey, we want this. We need to build, if we're going to build our program, because they listened and said, and to somebody said, this is how we compete and this is how we build a program.
Mm-hmm.
Other people aren't like that, but that's to Williams' point of you got to have that vision,
Yeah.
and want to expand, just like you do, just like you want to do with your science department. You got to treat every department like that.
To your
Athletics
point,
and everything.
that's actually the reason why I asked Eric Deal, does he believe that PWIs would take on his film? Because what it sounded like was he alluded to it a little bit, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the HBCUs lacked the vision of what it was that he was trying to display. PWIs may accept it. And to me, that's a problem within itself, right. Where it's like you got to have that vision. And Colorado had that vision, just like Jackson State had that vision. But how many other HBCUs don't have that vision? And what does it take to insert said vision? Which is, I mean, because when you talk about, it's kind of like when we talk about like the diffusion of innovation, right? Because that's what this is about. We're moving into new eras. More ADs and more school officials have to start thinking about it from an innovative standpoint. And now it's like, all right, how do we cross the chasm and get to the tipping point of more 5-star athletes going to HBCUs where they have history? Again, we could name quite a few. Zion Williamson's people went to Livingstone. When you see stuff like that, my child's not a 3-star or 4 or 5-star, or at least not rated yet. But if he were a 5-star, his lineage is wrapped in A&T. Is wrapped all up and through it. And if he wanted to carry that legacy through there, why does he have to go to Duke if he doesn't want to? If he would rather have that experience at a North Carolina A&T. So it's about having an understanding of where's the vision lacking. Is it in the parents? Is it in the university? And where do we fix it from there? Because that, to me, that's the biggest trouble, is trying to convince them that going against the grain is the best route for you. Because and I forgot the kid's name that went to Howard, but he was a highly ranked basketball player.
And that was a great documentary. That was a good they did a documentary on it.
Yeah. But now, what's his name? Because now it's like we can't find it.
He's in I think he's in the G League now, but I think he's in G League.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or was it not Bobo?
Nah, it wasn't Bobo.
He was one of them. He was one of them.
Yeah, he looked like Bobo though. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It was like his cousin or something.
Yeah,
he was a maker. He was one of the Maker brothers, wasn't he? Or cousin.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, this time for new leadership.
But,
McKee.
Well, real quick, it's me and Ben were in a discussion with
quarterback at Howard. Go ahead.
Yeah, me and Ben were in a discussion with an administrator. I won't say his name because we didn't clear this with him to release his name. But I'll say this briefly. You know, there's the banter back and forth. Then there's the being in these positions to have to administrate these things. And that takes on another shape often when you see the budget you're working with. And that's why Dr. Kimbrough, who was formerly at Philander Smith, he's with a foundation out of D.C. now. He quoted a noted legal mind where it concerns DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, in the new Supreme Court renderings that have in the Ivy League examples of UNC and Yale or Harvard, which one of them? But it doesn't matter. But the point is, the latest Supreme Court ruling suggests that it's going to be tough for African American students to get in there. Dr. Kimbrough quoted a noted scholar and said, yeah, we're going to have to make sure we have inclusion in the Ivy League and also strengthen HBCUs. It's not an either or in all. It's not all ESPN point counterpoint. We marched and fought for access to go to UNC Chapel Hill. That was the Martin Luther King NAACP Legal Defense Fund. But sometimes with these HBCU discussions, you would think we wanted to be segregated. And I love mythical black championships, but we fought for Zion to have the option to go to Duke. That's what our leadership fought for. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's what we fought for. So now that you exercise what the sit-in movement in Greensboro, Woolworth Lunch Counter fought for, hey, what you gonna say? What you gonna do? I wish they would all choose us too. But as a development officer mentality, I would say, hey, when you do wake up and come around, you can always come home. As Martin Lawrence said, I'll be here waiting for you. Because we fought for you to be able to go there as well. And it's a strange position that HBCUs hold. They were the jump off points for integration. Alabama State with the Montgomery bus boycott, North Carolina A&T for the sit-ins. These were the eventual court precedents that made it possible for the ACC and the SEC to look like it does. So oftentimes it's both and not either or on a lot of these issues. I know it feels better to take a position and say, but if you run in one of these schools, you can't shut yourself off from any community because you can't fund it.
Right.
You can't fund your own operation. And most of these Division II HBCUs are barely surviving. Go check the books. Go check the numbers. They are barely surviving.
And see, this is I hate we getting because
we need to,
but we'll pick this up. We got to do part 2 because I do have an answer for the integration, but that's I'll save that one for the next one. That'll be part 2. But I do have an answer. I do have an answer.
Yeah.
I think to McKee's point, I think the two issues get conflated when you start thinking about, the argument about them going to HBCUs. My argument for it most of the time is a lot of kids go to PWIs when they should go to HBCUs because the HBCU was a better option for that kid. But they get so caught up in the popularity contest of it, they end up making the wrong choice and forgetting that the HBCU could be a better place for your development, and so on and so forth, especially for athletes, because you see so many Hall of Fame athletes that came from HBCUs. And to that point, that didn't have anything to do with any kind of Black Power pride movement for those athletes. They just went to the places that were better suited for them. And instead of getting caught up in a Duke, like there's A&T down the street, there's Central down the street. Like you can still go there, catch that same development. And then we have a much better playing field. But you have so many parents that are like, is Duke or nothing? Or you have so many influence. I won't even say parents. You just have so many people that influence that thought process that they end up like, all right, if it's not a major PWI.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be the next discussion. That'll be
the next case. And to Amanda, great points. As Dr. Umar would say, integration was the illusion of inclusion. But and one thing with our schools as well, McKee pointed to the fact of, I think earlier, looking at the size of our schools, we have smaller schools compared to some of the bigger schools, but which means smaller alumni bases. All right, smaller givings. So if we're not, like he said, moving in these circles or these packs that can raise these monies and donate these extras just aside of alumni dues, it'll be in that, we'll still be in that same struggle, whether or not we get these kids to come. Because even though it could change, right now, I don't think we're going to see the wave of numbers that we need to see it to make it the prime market, so to speak. But I think what integration did do, coming back to Amanda's point, I think it caused us to devalue what was ours because we saw others because we felt it might have been better or more illustrious. And at the same time, we started devaluing.
Hold on a second, Free, because I have to ask you a question. What's the endowment at Benedict? I'm curious.
As of 2019, I believe it was at 23 million.
23 million. Who has the bigger university, North Carolina A&T or Guilford College?
A&T is bigger than Guilford College.
Their endowment is the same size, though.
Because Guilford's a private school, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that play? Well, that's the reason why I wanted to ask the question. Like, how does that play into the size of the endowment? Because if one's a bigger university, how does
that's based on givings? That's based on giving,
yeah.
As well,
okay.
And your departments.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and a lot of the private schools pride themselves on their big on their endowment. Yeah.
HPU and those private schools, it's a whole different beast. But when you look, just speaking on a majorative level, the HBCUs, that have small endowments, we rely heavily on alumni givings and tuition and retention.
And see, A&T state school, so they get state funds.
Yeah. Now, as Benedict grows, we've developed the MBA program and a graduate program now. So now, as that grows, you come into more partnership opportunities for programs and stuff to continue to build that endowment. But right now, a lot of it falls on us, the alumni, because we're running campaigns all the time to try to fulfill those needs, the athletic budget, the schools. So, and that's why I say it's key in our playing field right now, until we get those mega research grants and stuff. And it's building up at some schools. It's not the direct problem, but when we're speaking athletically and you look at a Clemson that might have 30,000 students compared to an A&T that has 10,000, it's a totally different ball game when you look at alumni coming out every year. You look at the head start Clemson had, it's just a different ball game. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's a part two. We'll get into that. Man, we done did this thing 2 hours. It flew, but I enjoyed it.
Definitely.
Final shout outs. If y'all wanna get into it, I just want to say thank you, Amanda, for throwing things at us to keep the conversation going. We applaud you and supporting and telling everybody, like and share. Tell your mother, tell your father, send a telegram. All right? Go ahead. We'll start. Mac, go ahead. Any shouts?
No, thank you to the listeners and the viewers. Like, share, follow. Appreciate you, Amanda. Thank you.
Mac.
So, Amanda, social media is making everything worse. So shout out to you.
Right.
It's not just this. Well, shout out to the listener.
King.
Shout out to my pickleball buddies. I'm supposed to be tuning in. I can't wait to hear your feedback tomorrow on the pickleball court. Yes, I play pickleball. That's right.
He's a picklehead. And shout out to brother Eric Dean. Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah.
And you're
yeah.
awesome too. Thank you, Amanda.
Oh,
and
wow.
we appreciate everything. And shout out to brother Eric Deal. Spread the
Yes.
word on the
Yes,
HBSU
sir.
movie. Shout out again to Swack and the Fool. McKee, I wanted you to give a special shout out to the Digging in the Crates. You ain't want to, or
Yeah.
is that you want to hold on to that? Go ahead.
No, I'll be real brief. Big shout out to Professor none lesser Hooker over at Professor Hooker's at North Carolina A&T State University, ROTC professor over there. But he does so much with the students in video production as well. He has the Digging in the Crates podcast where he had about 5 North Carolina A&T interns in the studio today as we celebrated 50 years of hip hop and its impact on our culture, our community, and our world. Big shout out to Brother Hooker. So go over on Facebook to Digging Crates, Ernest Hooker, Professor Ernest Hooker. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Right
it.
on. Right on.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
do we have a bet or anything with the Swack and Food with the celebration ball, or we're not on?
No, we'll get on that next week. We'll
All
get on
right.
that next week. We're going to take a little break because we got to come part 2. But I appreciate y'all. Great conversation. And Amanda, enjoy your week. Appreciate the love. And we're out.
Peace.